The U.S. is now preparing additional airdrops of desperately needed aid in Gaza, supplementing ground deliveries that have slowed to a trickle in recent weeks. The first American airdrop took place on Saturday, and it contained 38,000 ready-to-eat meals. But with more than 500,000 Gazans on the verge of famine and nearly everyone there suffering from hunger, the relief raining down from the skies is just a drop in a sea of need. Joining us now, Jose Andres, founder of the World Central Kitchen, one of the biggest providers of relief in that region. I appreciate you coming on the program. These airdrops, Chef, as you know, have generated some controversy. Some people argue they're inefficient, they're dangerous, expensive, even humiliating for the Gazans. As someone who works intricately in this space, how do you see it?
Well, myself, I've been one of the persons that I've been pushing for airdrops. So I will say that right now, I will not dare to speak on behalf of the people of Gaza, but because I've been there and because I know people there, I will say that people are actually very happy to see those parachutes. But you mentioned it at the beginning of my introduction. This is only a drop of water in an ocean of need, but it's a necessary need. So right now, let's concentrate in every way that we can be bringing more humanitarian aid, more food, more water, more medicines by road, by air, and if we can, by boat. The people of Gaza need all the help they can get. I'm very happy that the Americans joined the efforts of the King Abdullah of Jordan when he was very much the first one doing the small airdrops to cover the needs of his hospital. In this moment, more is more.
It is heartbreaking. Some would even say inhuman when we see what is facing the people of Gaza. You see them trying desperately to get whatever food they can. We've seen reports of Gazans eating animal feed to survive. Sometimes there's not even enough of that to go around. So share with us, if you will, what you've been hearing from your team members about the hunger now and the desperation.
Well, we have a total of 63 kitchens. Sometimes one or two kitchens are not able to open for different reasons that have to do with the confrontation going on inside Gaza. We're doing almost around 350,000 hot meals a day. Obviously, in the places we are, especially in Rafah, those kitchens are able to be use the daily needs of the families in the different camps surrounding our kitchens. We are able to have kitchens all the way to the middle part of Gaza, south of Gaza City, and we are very proud of that work. But again, much more is needed. The big need for the last many weeks has been always in what is Gaza City and everything else, even north. Obviously, it's need all around, but especially in the north of Gaza, is very difficult because the war that is happening and because people are in need. So when you say convoys, you send convoys north to cover the needs of hospitals, of different temporary camps. The people just will stop those trucks and just try to stop them to grab the food on their own. Therefore, you cannot have a sustainable, organized humanitarian aid in the north because the entire system breaks before. That's why right now we must be massive. We must be massive. Again, more trucks need to go in, more openings to access Gaza in the north must be allowed by Israel. We need to be doing, why not, more airdrops, especially in the north. And let me tell you, we need to be thinking and opening the maritime route. We need to be arriving to the beaches. That's why a few weeks ago I announced that we had a boat in Cyprus, because we've been pushing to be able to arrive to the beaches of Gaza, because again, the situation is really so dire.
And you mentioned that your organization has been feeding people in Rafah, where most of the displaced Gazans have been sheltering. Now, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has vowed again and again to invade the city, saying it is an essential part of Israel's war against Hamas. He plans to move, he says, those civilians elsewhere in Gaza, but we have seen what's happened in the past. with the inability to move Gazans. Is your team preparing on the ground for that? How dangerous is the day-to-day situation for your organization's people and for other aid organizations who are there?
Well, obviously that many members of UN has lost their life. It's a war zone. Our shootings and our bombs randomly falling, and everybody, civilians in wars, they are the ones that always suffer the most. That's why it's so important. Obviously, the ceasefire hopefully will happen anytime, and that no more civilian lives. I hope the hostages, obviously, in Israel should be made free. Obviously, it's people also in jails in Israel that many people will argue they should be free, that no civilian anywhere in Israel or in Palestine should be dying under army shooting at each other. More important, that food and water should be a universal right. And obviously, my heart is always, every time I hear there is been a massive bombing, my heart goes to everybody, because I'm hoping that obviously no humanitarian, no civilians have perished. So the situation, yes, is complicated. We've been in Ukraine for 2 years. Some of our kitchens, some of our trucks, they were hit. We lost, unfortunately, some of the volunteers in Ukraine. War is something shouldn't be happening anywhere. Countries should not be invading countries, and more important, civilians always should be protected. Let's hope that common sense happens sooner rather than later, and that the people, obviously, of Palestine will have what they deserve, which is to be treated with dignity, to make sure that food and water not be an issue, and start thinking soon one day of reconstruction.